Hello there, I'm Farzana Amira and you're watching TVCo, where we offer you new issues that occur in Malaysia. New issues, our business.
Obstacles and issues that are faced by Malaysians in rural areas that can lead to poor quality of life, and new solutions that Malaysia can try in order to improve the well-being of the rural population.
PT Musim Mas was the first Indonesian company.
We begin with the headline news story. Agriculture, health facilities and infrastructure are the main issues that arise in rural areas. Malaysia has its own rural development process to improve the quality of life and the economic well-being of people living in rural areas. The problem is, why there are no improvements in rural areas when we already achieved 63 years of independence? One of them is the problem with agriculture development. For public knowledge, Malaysian rice production is declining due to more agriculture lands being used for economic development. Other than that, import also can be the reason for declining in Malaysia rice production, as Malaysia imports 10% to 35% rice from neighboring countries such as Thailand, Myanmar, Vietnam, India and Pakistan. However, if Malaysia itself support local products, there will be no problem if we import rice from other countries, considering that the farmers use registered pesticides that can guarantee the food safety. But the issue now is, these farmers did not have good agriculture practice certificates that can educate them on safety issues. Hence, this led to farmers using unregistered pesticides as it is much cheaper compared to registered pesticides. Apart from the rice problem, the lack of standardization in producing agriculture products is also an issue that needs to be highlighted. The Ministry of Agriculture does not have the initiative to make sure one type of agriculture product stays in one land in a long-term period. We can see proof based on palm oil production. When the GDP was high, most farmers decided to plant palm oil and abandon their old crops. However, when palm oil demand might decrease in the future, at that time, palm oil will be overproduced. Despite all these issues and problems, there are new and improvised solutions that can be used by the Ministry of Rural Development in order to improve agriculture development in Malaysia. This is because when the agriculture industry improves, more people from rural areas will be employed. Hence, the economy in rural areas will be blooming. One of the solutions that have been discussed by scholars from International Islamic University Malaysia is by providing training for farmers to learn and expand their business. Expanding business will give the overproduced agriculture product a new version. The Ministry of Rural Development can collaborate with the Ministry of Entrepreneurship, Development and Cooperatives in order to make this solution become a reality. Next, the Ministry of Rural Development also can collaborate with Malaysian Quarantine and Inspection Services to give stricter punishment for farmers who did not follow the safety standards that have been provided. And lastly, the funds that have been allocated by the government should be used in a systematic way in order to improve the agriculture industry in Malaysia. This is for the issues on agriculture development. For other issues, I will be glad to pass to my colleague at the site.
Thank you, Mira, at TVCo Studio. As we know, the development of rural areas faces some challenges and also obstacles for providing facilities and also services for rural population. Health facilities is one of them. One of the consequences to health facilities is lack of quality in healthcare delivery. Most of rural services are provided by public hospitals, whereas in urban areas, most healthcare is covered by the private sector, causing inherent differences in delivery between the urban and also the rural areas. Doctors prefers to work in the private sector, resulting in fewer public hospitals, fewer doctors available and also fewer specialists in rural healthcare facilities. This movement causes the rural population to be undeserved. Moreover, the available doctors are usually younger, hence less experienced than those in, thus lead to the higher on the rate of undiagnosed cases. These undiagnosed cases can lead to more health complications and widen the health gap for the rural population. Such that residents in rural areas usually travel long distance to reach the facilities provided. Not only those in the rural areas are away from health facilities, but also the terrain makes it harder to access the medical facilities. A 2011 study reported that only about 69% of those in rural areas live within the 3 kilometers of clinics or other healthcare facilities. Furthermore, a study from the Ministry of Health found that the average time to reach a hospital for rural residents was 43 minutes compared to 28 minutes for urban residents. The study also found that hospitals in rural areas were on average more than double the distance away compared to the urban hospital, 36 km for rural residents versus 17 km for urban residents. This difference in distance and travel time hinder the rural population access to healthcare services in Malaysia.
Clinic One Malaysia is initiated in line with the government's idea of nation first, achievement precedes all. The intention of having such a clinic is to provide the people with services for light medical aid for ailments such as fever, cough, common cold, and others, with a minimal fee of 1 ringgit. Consultation and follow-up medical treatments for sicknesses such as diabetes, asthma, and high blood pressure are also offered. With the creation of Clinic One Malaysia, the government hopes to increase the healthcare standard of the nation. May the government's initiative from the Government Transformation Program bring benefit to all.
So, here with me is Mrs. Jasmine, who will share her opinion on thoughts regarding this issue. So, Mrs. Jasmine, what is your point of view of the issue regarding the health facilities and services in rural areas?
Okay, hi. My opinion, actually, access is the major issue, major rural health issue in all countries, especially when it's come to difficulty with transport and communication, and they are all faces the challenges of shortage of doctors and other health professionals in rural and remote areas.
Oh, sure. Therefore, in addressing both issues, what are the next steps for rural healthcare in Malaysia to provide better quality facilities and services to them? What's your opinion on that?
So, my opinion for the Ministry of Health, particularly, should the location of the hospital or the clinic, or in Malaysia they call it clinic desa, should be within reachable destination from rural areas, approximately 30 minutes journey, and also provide specialist doctors to follow up on chronic illness within 3 months, collaboration with the Ministry of Health to occupy all the health services in rural areas or remote areas in Malaysia. Rural health issues require sufficient numbers of doctors and other healthcare providers who have the necessary skills to work effectively and comfortably in these areas. Sustainability of these services is depending on the adequate health service, infrastructures and availability of specialist doctors and support systems. So the 2 points of equality of service provided and travel long distance to reach the area of medical facilities are very important in rural areas.
Of that, what is your opinion on the best or effective solution that has been addressed by the government regarding this issue of health facilities in rural areas lives in Malaysia?
I think in year 2009, the Ministry of Health already established a community clinics, which they call it as a Satu Malaysia Clinic in these areas or the remote areas to provide health facilities to support the rural community in Malaysia.
Alright, so that is I think the best solution or the best opinion or thought that Mrs. Jasmine thought regarding this issue. So Mrs. Jasmine, thank you for your time.
Okay, sure. Thanks for all the questions relating to the rural health issue in Malaysia. Yes.
In conclusion, the gaps between the rural and urban population contribute to poorer health outcomes and wealth inequality. Therefore, the expansion of the better health programs and healthcare should be developed to bridge the healthcare gap as well as reduce the risk of infectious disease. That is from me, Hina Balkis, and the cameraman reporting for TVCO from Subang Jaya, Selangor. Back to studio.
Thank you, Amira from TVCO Studio. The issue regarding rural development was a never-ending issue, especially the issue on infrastructure development in Sabah, Sarawak, among orang asli community and also people who live in rural settlements. Studies shows that about 35% of Malaysian population who live in rural settlements have very minimal access to the basic infrastructure. This will create problems that are associated with poor living working condition in the rural areas due to the underdeveloped infrastructure. As a result, it hinders communication, resulting to the social isolation between rural people and urban people and also established markets. In 2019, as stated by Minister of Rural Development, will ensure that 95% of rural population, especially in Sabah, will enjoy a quality basic infrastructure in 2025. Without proper and sufficient roads, the rural people are cut off from tech development and emerging markets. Some are dire need of repair if they don't maintain it. Also, the cost of maintaining the road is quite high. See, in the states of basic infrastructure such as road, clean water supply and also electricity supply, they are more than poor. As we know that this basic infrastructure is very essential in our population's well-being. With regards to the clean water supply, indigenous people or orang asli who are depending on artificial well water as well as river water, they are already polluted by bacteria, and this will cause them to suffer from health problems such as diarrhea. Residents in rural area, especially in Sabah and Sarawak, and also among orang asli community, need to face problem with electricity supply. They are highly depending on generator for electricity supply, and at a certain point, they use genset to get direct electricity. This issue always put a question mark. Is it the rural people who are left behind, or is it the problem with the authority? Who should we put blame to? To address these issues, environmental constraint may be one of the key factors. Study shows that high development and technology are needed in dealing with the constraints landforms to ensure the constructions of good connecting roads in the rural area. However, the state government is still experiencing the problem in preparing adequate budgets in the development due to the vastness distance between the states and the mountain terrains. Other than that, weaknesses of the authority to have strategic planning may contribute to these issues. This might be a challenge for a government too in planning development plans as the unique demographical positions of the states where the people live scattered in the hinterland, especially in Sabah and Sarawak. We believe that in order to solve these problems, authorities plays vital roles in increasing budget allocations for underdeveloped infrastructure of rural area in Malaysia. The pace of deployment, especially in East Asia, has to be increased to ensure these basic rights are delivered for long run in the rural area. Besides, we suggest that authority can provide loans to fund the electricity generations and distribution project, or by giving subsidy to cover the cost of electricity supply in the rural area. This more or less could benefit the people
who live in the rural area. With regards to the issue of clean water supply, federal governments together with state government, they can work together to run a water clean program in rural area. For example, they can provide a big water tank that enough for people in the area. The water tank should come together with the water filter that can be used for the long period of time. And the water filter must be approved by WHO so that the people are safe to use the water for their daily life. Last but not least, government should invest in advanced technology to decrease the cost of development in building proper roads in the future. Therefore, in such issues, people who live in rural area are in need of help from the government. Providing access to basic infrastructure in rural area ensures more equitable distributions of wealth and facilitates economic activities. That's all from me, Umi Umira, reported from Pahang. We are returning back to the Sri Pentas. Amira, please.
Thank you to my colleague for elaborating all the issues regarding rural development. For the closing of today's issues, rural development is very important in order to bring forward Malaysia into a high-income and developed country. And in order to improve rural areas, government and the ministries play an important role as they are the leaders of Malaysia. Let's wrap this by joining our hand in order to help improve rural areas. And let us see each other again next time in TVCO, New Issues, Our Business.